Section 9.3 is adding and subtracting rational expressions. It's going to be a lot like adding and subtracting rational fractions. So if you have 3 plus 6, or 3 over 6 plus 1 over 6, common denominator, it's equal to 4 over 6. In this problem, we have x minus 9 over x minus 2 plus 3x plus 1 over x minus 2. We have a common denominator. And so notice you don't do anything with the denominators. It comes straight across. So this is equals straight across x minus 2. And now we add the numerator. X minus 9 plus 3x plus 1. And so that simplifies. X plus 3x is 4x. Minus 9 plus 1 is minus 8. All over x minus 2. Now we can factor a 4 out of the top, and it's x minus 2 all over x minus 2. And before we cancel, we say our domain is x such that x is not equal to 2. And now we can cancel these two, and simplified is 4. Very similar to adding fractions. Next example, find the lowest common multiple of each of the set of expressions. So let's factor 27a. That's going to equal 3 cubed times a. Let's factor 12a cubed b. That's going to be 4 times 3, which is 2 squared, times 3 times a cubed b. And then 18 a to the 4th b. So we factor 18 as 9 and 2, which is 2 times 3 squared times a to the 4th times b. And so the lowest common multiple is we look at, there's a 2 and a 2 squared and 2 to the 0, which means we've got to take the highest one, which is 2 squared. Now we have 3 cubed, 3, and 3 squared, so we have to take 3 cubed, the highest exponent. A cubed, a to the 4th, we take a to the 4th. We have b to the 0, b to the 1, b to the 1, it's b to the 1. So this is going to be 4 times 27 times a to the 4th b. That's going to be what, 108 a to the 4th b, and that's the lowest common multiple of all three of these factors. Let's look at this one over here. We have x squared minus 4x. So we factor that, bring an x out of both. We have x minus 4. Then we have x squared minus 6x plus 8. So we have two sets of parentheses. There's got to be an x here and an x here. Two numbers that multiply to give you 8, add to give you minus 6 will be minus 4 and minus 2. So now what's the lowest common multiple? There's an x to the 1, and there's an x to the 0 here, so you take x to the 1. Remember, x to the 0 is just a 1, so if it's invisible, it's anything to the 0. X minus 4 to the 1, x minus 4 to the 1, so we get x minus 4 to the 1. Then x minus 2 to the 1, up here is x minus 2 to the 0, so we take x minus 2 to the 1. And so it's x times x minus 4 times x minus 2. And that's the lowest common multiple of those two expressions. That'll help us find the common denominator as we add and subtract these expressions. So now we have 5x all over x squared plus x minus 6 plus x plus 7 over x squared minus 4x plus 4. So let's factor the denominator. Two numbers that multiply to give you minus 6, add to give you 1. It's going to be plus 3 and minus 2. Two sets of parentheses. X has to go here to get x squared. Two numbers multiply, give you 4, add to give you minus 4 is minus 2 and minus 2. So now what's a common denominator? Well, I have x minus 2 to the 1 here, but I have x minus 2 squared here. So I need another x minus 2 here. But if I do that, I also have to multiply the top by x minus 2, or I change the whole expression. Here I have an x plus 3, but I don't have an x plus 3 over here. So I'm going to put x plus 3 here and x plus 3 here, and this has to go in parentheses because the whole thing gets multiplied. So now this becomes 5x. So I distribute the 5x into both of those, and that becomes 5x squared minus 10x all over x minus 2 squared times x plus 3. Plus, now I do FOIL on this one, so it's going to be x squared plus 3x plus 7x plus 21 all over x minus 2 squared times x plus 3. So now I have a common denominator. I just add across. Denominator stays exactly the same. I don't change it. I just bring it over just like I do for fractions. And now I simplify the top. 5x squared plus x squared is 6x squared. Minus 10x plus 3x and 7x is 10x. So minus 10x plus 10x is 0 plus 21. So I can factor 3 out of the top. I have 2x squared plus 7 all over x minus 2 squared times x plus 3. That's about as far as I can factor it. And again, if we had to write our domain would be x such that x is not equal to 2 or minus 3. Next example, now we're subtracting two rational expressions, but we do it the same way. Now you look at these and say these are almost the same, but notice that every term here is the negative of every term there. So that says I can factor a minus 1 out. Let me factor it out of this guy. So this stays the same. I factor a minus out, and this becomes x minus 3. And so a minus can come up and combine with that minus, and I end up with 5x plus 4 all over x minus 3 plus 3x minus 1 all over x minus 3. Common denominator, so the denominator comes straight across, x minus 3. Combine like terms, that's 8x plus 3. And that's as simple as it gets. Get a little bit more complicated. 4x plus 2 all over x squared plus 11x plus 30 minus x minus 1 all over x squared plus 2x minus 24. So we're going to factor the denominator again. So 2 sets of parentheses. X has to go here to get x squared. Two numbers that multiply give me 30, add to give me 11 is 6 and 5. So it's plus 6 and plus 5. Then we subtract x minus 1. 2 sets of parentheses. X has to be here to get x squared. Two numbers multiplied give me minus 24. Add to give me plus 2 is going to be plus 6 and minus 4. Okay, so now I look at my denominators, and you have to kind of find the lowest common multiple. So x plus 6, got them both. X plus 5, there is no x plus 5 over here. So let me redraw this down here. So I don't have an x plus 5 here, so I need one. So I put one here, but if I put it down here, I also have to put it up here. It's in parentheses, and it's going to multiply the entire numerator, so it's got to go in parentheses. I need an x minus 9 I have an x minus 9 here, but not over here, so I have to put an x minus 9. But again, I have to compensate for it, so it just equals 1 by putting up top. This goes in parentheses. Now I FOIL the top. 4x squared plus 2x minus 36x minus 18 all over x minus 9, x plus 6, x plus 5, minus, FOIL the top again. Let's keep it in parentheses because that minus is out front. X squared plus 5x minus x minus 5 all over x minus 9, x plus 6, x plus 5, the exact same denominator. So now I have common denominator, so the denominator comes right across, doesn't change. And now I distribute the minus sign in here and combine like terms. So I have 4x squared minus x squared is 3x squared. I'm going to have 2x minus 36x is minus 34x, minus 5x is minus 39x, plus x is minus 38x. And then I have minus 18 minus a minus 5 is going to be minus 13. We could put this into quadratic formula, but it really wouldn't help us much. This is about as simple as we can get. You get a simplified form. You can't factor. I really can't take a factor out of 13. 3 doesn't come out of 13. 3 doesn't come out of 38, so there's really no way to factor this nicely. Next. Okay, let's do a couple different methods on this one. So we have 5 plus 1 over x all over 25 minus 1 over x squared. And so what you do is you say, what's the largest denominator? Well, I have a 1 as a denominator here, 25 over 1. I have x and I have x squared. So let's multiply top and bottom by x squared, the highest exponent denominator. Top and bottom, because x squared over x squared is just 1. When I distribute that, I get 5 x squared minus x squared over x is just x. And then down here I distribute 25x squared minus 1 over x squared times x squared is 1. Well, this is, I can factor an x out of here up top. So that's x times 5x minus 1. And this is a squared minus b squared, where a is 5x and b is 1. So this is going to turn into 5x plus 1, 5x minus 1. The 5x minus 1's cancel. I end up with x over 5x plus 1. And there's the answer. Let's try it a different way, though. Let's start with 5 plus 1 over x all over 25 minus 1 over x squared. Let's just deal with the top and find a common denominator. So that's going to be 5x over x plus 1 over x. And then this is going to be 25x squared over x squared minus 1 over x squared. And so that combines common denominator up here. That's going to be 5x plus 1 over x, big fraction bar, 25x squared minus 1 all over x squared. Well, we have a fraction divided by a fraction. That's the same thing as a fraction times the reciprocal. So it's going to be times x squared over 25x squared minus 1. So when I divide by a fraction, I just take it, flip it up to the top, and multiply it. And so this x cancels with that x. There leaves an x up top. I end up with x times 5x plus 1. And this, once again, is a squared minus b squared, so I get 5x plus 1, 5x minus 1. Now that I checked this, let's go back here and fix this. This is a plus. That's a plus. So that cancels with that, leaves that. This here is a minus. So you should have caught that. You should have said something to me. I would have changed it. There you go. Okay, that's the answer. Now this cancels with this, and you get x over 5x minus 1. And you get the same answer both ways. Okay, sorry about that little mistake there. I brought down the plus to a minus. It should have been a plus. All right, let's look at one more example. And this is actually a lesson. You need to understand how this works. So if a car travels at 30 miles an hour and at 60 miles an hour for the same amount of time, its average speed for the entire trip is the arithmetic mean. So if you travel the same amount of time, say 2 hours at 30 miles per hour. Let's say you went for t equals 2 hours. That means that in 2 hours, you went 60 miles. And if you travel 60 miles per hour times 2 hours, that's equal to 120 miles. And so average speed is total distance over total time. Well, the total distance is 180 and the total time is 4. And so that's going to equal 45 miles per hour. That's nothing more than taking 30 plus 60 and dividing by 2. So it's the arithmetic mean. When you look at speeds and you travel the same amount of time, you just take the average of the two speeds. But now let's say the same thing. You're traveling at 30 miles an hour and 60 miles an hour. Now let's say you travel 30 miles an hour, but for a fixed distance. Let's say you go a distance of d, and you go 60 miles an hour for the same distance d. Remember that distance is equal to velocity times time. So the time it takes you is distance divided by velocity. So the time it took here is going to be d over 30, and the time it took here is going to be d over 60. So t1 is equal to this, and t2 is equal to that. And so now let's look at the total distance you traveled. So again, the average velocity is equal to, or average distance rather, is equal to velocity times time. And so your average velocity is total distance over total time. So total distance we went in this case is 2d. And the total time is t1 plus t2, which is d over 30 plus d over 60. Well, that's equal to 2d. I can factor d out of both of these. I end up with 1 over 30 plus 1 over 60 times d. And look at that, the d's cancel. And I end up with 2 over 1 over 30 plus 1 over 60. Let's move this up a bit. And so that's going to equal 2 over, common denominator 60, so it's going to be 2 over 60 plus 1 over 60 is equal to 2 over 3 over 60, which is equal to 2 times 60 over 3, which is equal to 40 miles per hour. And so what we just did there is called the geometric mean, not the arithmetic mean. This is the arithmetic mean. This is the geometric mean. And you see it up here. The geometric mean is going to be n, the number of things you're averaging. You're taking the mean, and it's going to be 1 over the first number plus 1 over the second number plus all the way up to 1 over the nth number. And that's the geometric mean. And so you're trying to find the speed where you travel the same distance. You simply take the geometric mean of all your speeds. And so let's try that now in an example. Okay, so the Baumans traveled the same distance on each of 3 days of their family trip. They averaged 50. Okay, so our x1 is equal to 50. They traveled 35, x2 is equal to 35, and x3 is equal to 55. So n, in this case, is equal to 3, because there's 3 numbers. So you get 3 over 1 over 50 plus 1 over 35 plus 1 over 55. So let's break those down into their factors. 1 over 5 squared times 2 plus 1 over 5 times 7 plus 1 over 5 times 11. And so common denominator is going to be 5 squared times 2 times 7 times 11. So I've got I got times 7 times 11. So I got to put times 77 up here. Plus 1 over 5 times 7. I need another 5. I need 2. And I need 11. So that's 10 times 11, 110. Plus 1 over 5 times 11. I need another 5. I need a 2. I need a 7, which is 70. And so that's going to equal 3 over 77. Let's see, so 14. Let's do that on a calculator. I'm running out of ability to do that in my head. So I've got 25 times 2 times 7 times 11. It's 3850. This is 3850 plus 110 over 3850 plus 70 over 3850. And that's going to be 3 divided by 187, 257, all over 3850. Flip that fraction around, and that's equal to 3 times 3850 over 257. Let's see what that is. So we have 3850 times 3 divided by 257 is about 45 miles an hour. And so that's how you find the average speed when you travel the same distance. So those are all the examples. This was a long one. Work through each one. I know a lot of it was very busy, and we can work problems in class. Thanks.